Hello there, it's Deborah Morgan with Kids Health Revolution, here with a short and sweet leaky gut video just to give you the lowdown on how leaky gut happens and how it affects your child's health. So, way back times, there was a very wise man, Hippocrates, who said that all disease begins in the gut. And this is really being proven to be true more and more with the research that's coming out on the gut. So, let's first talk about what the gut is. We're talking about the intestines, the small and large intestines, primarily with leaky gut. We're looking at the small intestine. And it's really important that you understand the vital functions that go on in this particular part of the body. So, digestion of the food that your child eats happens in the small intestine, and then those nutrients from that food is absorbed out of the small intestine into the body so that it can be used. The intestine is also a protective and selective membrane. It actually protects the inside body from the outside world. Lots of detoxification happens there. 70% or more of our immune system is in the intestine, and they're now recognizing it as a second brain where there's neurotransmitters actually being produced in the gut. So it's pretty easy to see just from those vital functions how, if it's not functioning optimally, your child's health is going to be suffering. So let's get into a little bit of super basic anatomy. Just two things. We're not going to get complicated here. Just some simple parts that are really going to get you understanding gut health and its role. So the cells that line the small intestines are called enterocytes. And these cells are responsible for that digestion, absorption, and that protective barrier. Very important role. The other thing that I want you to be aware of is the gut microbes, or the gut bugs, sometimes called microflora. And these are the little critters, the bacteria that call our intestines home. For the most part, we have a very symbiotic relationship with most of these bacteria. And in fact, we're finding out that they have an extremely important role in our health. And some really wild stuff, like they can have conversations basically with other organs of the body and other systems of the body, like the immune system, the nervous system, even the brain. And they are very important for detoxification. Now, it's important to know that we have both friendly or what we call beneficial bacteria in our guts, as well as the more opportunistic or pathogenic bacteria in our guts all the time. So it's not just a matter of only having one or the other. It's like an ecosystem in there. But balance is key. We want to have more of the friendly fellows than the pathogenic ones. And when there's more of the pathogenic creatures in there, that's when we get into a situation that can compromise health. And this has a specific name, and it's called dysbiosis. So, dysbiosis is when we have an imbalance in the bugs that are living in our gut, in that microflora. And when we have this imbalance, our intestinal cells are not happy and healthy as they should be. So in that little picture there, you can see that that little intestinal cell, the enterocyte, is not doing very well. The first little guy is looking happy. He's got lots of hair. The second guy is looking pretty bewildered. And this is what happens when we have imbalanced microflora in the gut. So the intestines aren't able to do their jobs properly. If those cells aren't working well, we can't digest our food. So we can have situations of malnourishment. Undigested food just sits around in the bacteria and becomes a feast for those pathogenic bacteria. And those pathogenic bacteria, end up multiplying and they start kind of taking over the place and pushing out the beneficial or friendly bacteria, the ones that we want to have in there. And what happens is this becomes kind of a vicious circle, and we get impaired detoxification, and the immune system becomes dysregulated. And then the more this happens, the more it feeds into this cycle of dysbiosis. We also get into a situation of compromised intestinal barrier. So we talked about that physical and selective barrier of the intestine. And you can think of it like these little enterocyte cells. Think of those two cute little pictures we saw for a quick moment over there. And it's like they're holding hands really tightly, or they're really tightly linked together, like bouncers at a nightclub. And they are deciding what gets out of the intestine and what stays in the intestine for elimination. So it's a very protective function. And when the cells are unhealthy, like that little critter we just saw, they start to lose connection with each other. They're not holding on as tightly. And so there becomes these little spaces in the enterocyte cells, in the lining of the intestine. And when that happens, things can start leaking, thus the leaky gut, leaking through that membrane that shouldn't be getting out of the intestine. So, what's leaking out? We're getting toxins that should be eliminated in the feces. We're getting food particles that aren't fully digested leaking out into the bloodstream. And we also are getting some viruses and bacteria that could be held in the intestine and eliminated, leaking out into the bloodstream. So, not a great situation. And we have to remember that sitting right outside the gut there is that immune system, right? 70% of the immune system. And this is like the sentry or the armed guard that's sitting there just waiting for something that doesn't look right. So out comes an undigested food particle, and the immune system says, "What? That doesn't look right. It's not supposed to be here. Attack." And the same thing happens with bacteria, viruses, and toxins. This is where food tolerances comes from, is leaking out of the gut, and the immune system starts to recognize it as foreign and attacks it. You can imagine if this attacking is going on day in and day out, it's going to lead to chronic inflammation. And we know that chronic inflammation is directly linked to chronic health problems. So, to have a healthy body, we need to have a healthy gut. And to do that, we really need only two simple things: balanced gut bugs and healthy enterocytes. They go together. And we do that by helping our children heal and seal the leaky gut using something as simple and basic as the foods we put on the table for them every day. So now you know, and your next step is to go up to the top of the page here on the website and click on Take Action. There's lots of things you can do. There's a DIY section that's going to walk you through some of the step-by-step actions you can take just yourself to get your child on the road to healing that gut and improving their health. There's also some meal plan options and working with me one-on-one as a nutrition coach. Lots of stuff, lots of ideas, and I know you can do this. So let's get those kids healthy and happy and reaching their full potential.